Hey guys, Tommy Kerrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tommy Untamed. We're going to take a quick break and give a shout out to the sponsors who support the show and make it possible. The world's smartest investors are not buying oil stocks, they're buying mailbox money or oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as $25. Visit KerriganOilBoom.com to discover how to tap into monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy or connected, you just need a regular brokerage account. That's KerriganOilBoom.com to learn how you could start collecting oil royalty checks every month. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God fearing, America loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden. So you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own. Or you can even get freeze dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have. And they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So, if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels, go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a blue room soon. www.blueroom.com.
I just scrub the entire apartment. I do that the first of every month. I have no idea where I'm going with this show. So if you're expecting something, click out. I'm just going to riff from that, though. I just scrubbed the entire apartment. And I don't even have to. But I mean, like, vacuum, wipe down all the surfaces, clean the toilets, mop. And I think I'm just terrified of ever going back to how I was for several years after my brother died. When I just was fat, lazy, angry, no hygiene, no money, no job, blaming everyone for everything. It was just, I really do think I'm just terrified of going back to that. Same reason why, on a weekend, taking an off day, if I wake up at 4 p.m. or something, I'll still get up, shower, shave, put on clean clothes, put on a watch, cologne, deodorant, even if I'm seeing no one, comb my hair over, because I think I'm just terrified of ever going back to where I was. That bleeds over into saving money, that bleeds over into working, that bleeds over into... It's a nice apartment for me. I don't think it's an objectively nice apartment. It's a nice apartment for me. To me, I'm just like, treat it with respect. I don't have to. I absolutely don't have to. It's not mine. But it's just like just clean it with treat it with respect. Clean it. Just everything. So I don't know. Same reason I still read every day and work out every day and increase my workouts monthly so I don't stagnate. I really do think a lot of it's just fear of going backwards. I had a gut feeling in college that for me personally, life was a lot like a seesaw. I was either accelerating and getting better or accelerating and getting worse, but there was really no middle ground. After psychedelics, meditation, all that good stuff, I tried to find middle ground. And for me, it doesn't work. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. For me, there is no middle ground of just like being content. I'm doing one or the other. So you know what? And I'm sure if I wanted to, I could spend the next 50 years trying to find the middle ground, but that's also not really I don't care that much. I'm okay with I'm okay with not finding the perfect restaurant. I'm okay with going, well, you know what? I wanted this, but this place is still open on DoorDash. I'm not like this is my vendetta. I'm like there's other things I'd rather do. I think I'd like to be a father. I know at the very least I'd like a girlfriend. I'd like a dog. I'd like to be a good brother, sibling, all that good stuff. So I think that's I've kind of just stopped pursuing it. No, we're not doing this. He showed up 15 minutes late. Sorry, dude. Um, we're just no, no, we're not doing that. I don't. No, 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 no. But yeah, I think I'm just scared of going back, and you know, maybe try to temper it. Don't go completely crazy workaholic, but yeah. So not really much more to that. Just riffing for a moment. Um, I gotta be completely real at the I mean, I also don't want to like, don't let what is it? Don't let perfect prevent progress or whatever. Kind of actually maybe kind of on that theme of moving forward and doing better. I don't want to be that guy who's if I don't get 100% of what I want, then it's all I think it's complete and utter bullshit that we haven't gotten the Epstein client list. From the not I mean in general I know yeah you're never gonna get that. What are you talking about? You got the Mossad and the CIA controlling politicians by having them toddlers on an occult island. I get that, but Trump survived and got in. They stole an election from him. They tried to kill him. They tried to jail him, and he got in. If you don't go for it now, I do have to question your manhood. And I know that that's like that's a giant thing. My biggest challenges in life have been going up against censorship. I get it. He's going up against, a satanic cabal that tried to kill him. Probably released a virus and killed millions of people just to prevent him from moving forward. I get that. But man, if you're not going for it, okay, and you know what? Maybe it's like, hey, Trump's doing more than okay, sure, whatever. We'll take the 5D chess route. I don't like that route, but whatever. We'll for the sake of it, we'll take it. You have two guys that talked such a big game, and I admittedly know next to nothing about either of them. But you have Dan Bongino and Cash Patel. The fact that their names have trickled into my consciousness, and I have not, like, I don't do the whole like daily political tit for tat. I'll have on guests that will talk about it, but being totally honest, I'm not there mentally when I'm doing those shows. I don't care. I'm not to sound like some big brain faggot, but I look at more like the movements, like the big themes of it, and I really don't want to say that because I sound like some will actually, but I don't care if AOC slams Republicans. I don't care if Trump owns none of that matters to me. That really is like has the same level of value to me as chicks on Instagram with filters and fillers and showing their like it means nothing. It's only fan link in bio. It means nothing to me. It's repulsive. But the fact that those two names have trickled into my consciousness, despite the fact that I actively sidestep that content, like I'm conservative. I think I've made that very clear on the podcast over the years. I can't when I log in a Rumble or something and I see like libs go crazy. I want to put a revolver in the roof of my mouth and blow my brains off out, blow my head off and my brains out. That shit is I hate that shit so much. It is pop. I hate it. But devil's advocate, maybe you need to dumb it down to get people involved because we are at the reason we are at the place we're at because nobody's been involved in, I guess, politically literate for the last 30, 40 years. Whatever. Where am I going with this? Bunch, get yeah. Where you can't. It's not that he's an agent. He's a whistleblower. And he's like, I wanted to get it out, but I couldn't. And you go, well, he should have. And someone else goes, he was an agent, man. He's gonna end up in Gitmo if he You're like, yeah, I guess. I mean, look what they did to Snowden and Assange, and well, Assange wasn't U.S., but you go, okay, you're the head of the fucking agency now. You have Pam Bondi going, I want it on my desk. Roll up with FBI HRT. Go get a National Guard augmentation. Roll up to the fucking offices with 1,000 combat Marines. Do what they did in D.C. on January 6th afterwards when they brought in a fucking standing army. So it's hard not to be blackpilled. And I hate blackpilling because I think that's Satan whispering in your ear. But it's hard not to be when, I am happy. I mean, a year ago, if you had said Trump won, they didn't steal it. He survived an assassination attempt. Elon's in there. They've vanquished USAID. They sent the Marines to the southern border. They've essentially pulled out of NATO. They've shut off the spigot to Ukraine. They're sending, planefuls of MS-13 members to South America, and they're posting Ghibliified images from the White House Twitter. Like those are all good things, and I can't, even as I say them, I start to smile and go, "Yeah, it is kind of fucking cool," and it is. But I don't quite think, and of course I'm going to say this because I'm biased to my own thoughts. I don't quite think this is the same as going, "Hey man, you got 9 out of 10. Take the 90." It's not that. It's not that you rolled the dice and you got one of the six sides. It's not that. It's that the thing we didn't get is seemingly the linchpin that has caused everything before this. Why do you see actions that are so contrary to one's own self-preservation, the preservation of the country, the economy? Like, why do we see these? Like, why do we go build this railroad in Sierra Leone, or why are we taking in, a million brain dead Somalis? It's like, why do you do this? And it seems like, well, blackmail. If nothing else makes, I always use this analogy. Uh, there's this store nearby where my little brother went to college, and it was just called Piano Liquidators, and it was a college town. Piano Liquidators would be a tough sell outside Manhattan, but outside of college town, you're like, that's money laundering. And it's been open for 20 years. Lights on every day. That's a front. They're fucking selling meth out the back of that. They're selling kids. When you see these actions that are so contrary to self-preservation and to, it's not even like, well, we don't see what's happening because it's classified. Okay, fair. There are classified movements. But when you see something that's so contrary to any interest of anyone involved, and it doesn't seem like there's the caveat of like, well, it's a classified DoD project, and it just screams blackmail. To me, it's not that there's 10 random things and we got 9 of them, and it's like, Tommy, you're really hung up on that one thing. It's that it seems like that one thing is the stake in the ground that's holding the rest of the tent down. And it does beg the question of true fundamental change is not feasible, is not possible, is not plausible. And that the people in power behind the scenes will, if cornered, allow a lot of things to happen. They don't want to, but there are things they're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to say, like, all right, we'll stop the global homo communism for a couple of years. We'll do the nationalism thing. Let them have the border back. Okay, we'll stop the shit in Ukraine. We'll do all of that. We'll sacrifice all of that so we don't sacrifice the big thing, which is control over politicians in a way that they can't ignore. It's not that there's a financial incentive. It's that there's a video of you, maybe you're drugged up, maybe you're not, and a kid on an island with an occult temple. And if that's the case, then it implies Trump's involved. That's the only implication there is. It's the only fair implication there is. Or Cash Patel's involved, or Dan Bungie. These are all alleged. I don't want to get sued. But those are the only things that those are the only things of like, because why else would you do all these things? Like, okay, well, the deep state's on their back foot, and we're getting all these because they're trying to protect the crown jewel. There's no impetus to you not going after the crown jewel unless the crown jewel implicates you. There's none. You're doing all this other shit. There's no other reason why you'd stop marching. Why you wouldn't take Berlin. And so, wait, is that car parked? I really hope that car's not parked. There's a car just like sticking out into the street. I don't look at it as like, well, he's getting as much done as he can. To me, it tells me that that real. Why that car is parked? No way. It tells me that that real fundamental systemic change is not possible. That's all that tells me. My allergies are going crazy right now. That's all that tells me, and maybe there's a greater lesson in that for me. Don't place true value or faith or focus on things of this world. There might be a philosophical, religious, spiritual implication of that. Of, yeah, you're concerned with building utopia where, what's the word, dust and dirt doth corrupt. But I don't. It doesn't seem like real change is possible. And maybe it's not yet. We're 3 months in. Maybe not yet. Okay. I'm very hesitant to go along that line of thinking. It's 5D chess. I don't know, man. It The other side of me would say, wouldn't they have released? Okay, actually, I hadn't thought about that. Wouldn't they have released that by now? Wouldn't they have released that? Wouldn't they have forfeited that piece of blackmail to shut down Trump at some point from 2015 forward? That's actually a fair counterpoint. Wouldn't they have released that? Yeah, but then that would have implied that there's a greater blackmail network. But they threw everything at Trump. Everything. Russiagate to COVID to George Floyd to felonies to mugshots to trying to blow his head off and incite a civil war and seemingly kick off World War III with Russia at some point in the last 3 years. Wouldn't they have sacrificed that piece of blackmail to show him with a kid? Even if that meant they had to sacrifice their other pawns? I think that wouldn't they? It's not like it's just some random politician they don't like. They don't like whatever Ted Cruz. They tried to kill Trump. They greenlit Civil War, JFK 2.0. They absolutely, if you had blackmail evidence, you would have. I just backed myself into a logical corner. They absolutely would have done that. Unless, I mean, the counterpoint to that would be, unless that, that would blow open the whole blackmail ring, and maybe the whole blackmail ring includes Putin, the king, the pope. Okay, but if that was the case, let's walk that out, and you had blackmail on all those world figures, then you wouldn't need to take out Trump in that manner because you'd control every other thing on the chessboard. And I don't know chess. I don't. Maybe that's not the analogy I should use. Then you'd have everything else on such a lockdown that it wouldn't even matter if Trump got in power because you'd be able to obstruct and gridlock the rest of the planet, which doesn't seem to be the case. You do have Trump working with these guys. You do have these, Millet and who's the other guy, Bukele. Such an Irish pig. Bukele. Our Mother Mary. So what it implies is that every other member, if they had blackmail on Trump, would have to be. Yeah, so it's either that they had blackmail on every other world leader. But if you had blackmail on every other world leader and Trump, you wouldn't need to release the shit on Trump. You would just gridlock the rest of the planet. If you do have it on Trump, why wouldn't you release it? Unless you have it on every other world leader, and you would rather keep it on every other world leader and not release it on Trump than vice versa. Or they still have it on Trump and this is all orchestrated. But then we get into like 10D chess, and I'm like, yeah, I don't. It just starts to seem unfeasible. So if it's not on Trump, if it's not on Trump and or Bongino and or Patel, then why aren't they going after it? None of the nothing is all. It's like if you try to put more pool balls than you can in the pool triangle, just one keeps popping out. There doesn't seem to be a succinct pic with the data I have and with the IQ I have. I don't seem to be able to paint this whole picture. They either wouldn't go after it because they are implicated, but if they were implicated, why wouldn't you have released? Wouldn't that be preferential to shooting them? And I only say that because they've, after everything, Russiagate, COVID, BLM, felonies, Mar-a-Lago evaluation. At a certain point, wouldn't you get, I mean, I would imagine before you shot him, you'd go, we have one more lesser card to play. We do have a king. Shooting him is the ace, but we do have a king card. Wouldn't you have played it at some point? Well, then why didn't they? They either don't have it, but if they don't have it, why hasn't he pursued it? I've backed myself into a corner here. I don't. It's a good corner to have though, because I started this show just 20 minutes ago, very angry and black pilled, but now I'm just confused, which does seem to kind of Well, black pilling implies that, the devil's whispering in your ear. Confusion just seems to, imply that, yeah, you're one of God's imperfect creation, or not imperfect that he's imperfect, imperfect that I'm, it's God forgive me, I'm a sinner and retarded. Like, that's what it is. Is like, nah, I'm a dipshit. Well, then I don't know what it is. Well, if none of the pieces are coming together, that would imply that I don't have all the pieces. And that if you had to, well, is there another variable you're missing? Well, yeah, time. You got X, Y, and Z, but then you have the time. What if you just ran it for another year? What's the simulation do in a year? Well, maybe Trump took over all the blackmail. Yeah, but then you're using blackmail. I'm not against. I'm sure it's an intelligence method all day long. But if you're using blackmail of them kids on an island, I don't know if that makes you a good guy. Counterpoint. Well, it already happened, and we've freed the kids that are still alive, and we've shut it all down. But we already have this stuff, so the greater good would be to put the screws to them, and them all to death, so that they can never do this shit again. That's some dark calculus there. I mean, but it's the same reason we brought Nazi scientists back for paperclip, or the Japanese ones back for rice paperclip, Unit 731. It's like, well, they already did the research, and you can shut it down. You can shut down the whole, what was it, in Manchuria, where they had the camps, the Row building, RHO. It's like, well, they've already done it. We've nuked Japan. Like, we've defanged them. In a weird way, you can almost say that it's like, well, now those deaths are in vain if you don't even take the research and apply it. And you could apply it for good. Like, we're going to develop these bioweapons so we can threaten the Soviets to make sure this shit never happens again. That's that's a dark calculus. But at the same time, simply just saying it's dark. That's one thing I always try to catch myself with. I go, hey, that's pretty dark, or I go, that's above my pay grade. That's not really an adequate out. You can't just say, that's behind the scenes stuff. That doesn't get rid of it. That doesn't solve it. And I find myself doing that all the time in the plot where I'm like, that, that's, hey man, that's dark. That's up at national security level. That's above my pay grade. That doesn't solve the problem though. You've just ignored it. You've gone, I don't know how to do that problem. Skip it. Okay, fair, but that problem still exists. And if anything, just ignoring it and walking by it and giving a shrug and going, I don't fucking. If anything, that forces you to then say, it's kind of A Few Good Men. A movie I've never seen, but I've seen the scene. You want me on that wall, you need me on that wall because I take care of things in dark places that you don't like to talk about at parties. If you do sidestep it and just go, well, it's pretty dark, you are thus implying that there is a behind the scenes group of guys, and you just have to accept that you're a child and they're the adults. And if you're going to do that, then you can't ask these questions about how come they haven't raided the FBI offices, how come they haven't rolled up on that. You can't bitch and complain and then also say, well, there are just some things that are above my pay grade. Because if I'm going to sit here and go, why hasn't Trump done that? And then I'm going to look at things like Unit 731 or Nazi scientists or, the rape and alleged murder of children on an island within a cult temple, then I can't follow up and go, well, why haven't you done this yet? It's like, which one is it? Are there men behind the curtain? And if there are they all evil and need to be brought to light? In which case, you need to now take the reins and go, okay, what do you do in this situation? Or you can say, I don't know, it's above my pay grade, which is fine, but then you have to stop questioning it because you've now implied that there are men behind the curtain, but they're on your side and they're doing tough things you don't want to talk about at parties. I have no idea, man. But even that, that's not an adequate end to the. That's not a period. That's not a punctuation to go. I don't know, man. The problem still exists. I'm trying to get better at that. Well, I don't. Who knows? Like, no, 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 no. You have to decide what to do that with that. It's like when I was moving apartments, or the last couple of years, I've moved a couple times. Every once in a while, I'll find myself just like assuming the job would get done, which is retarded. But I'd be, like, well, what I don't want to do is take apart that couch. That's gonna be a fucking pain. So I would do other stuff. I'll wrap dishes in bubble wrap. I'll start folding clothes. I'll start, you know, unplugging and labeling all the electronics so I can set up the studio in a new place. But there'd just be like the giant 800-pound couch in the room instead of gorilla, where I'd just go, I don't, yeah, maybe someone. And then finally it would just dawn on me. I'd be like, I have to do that. No one's doing that. Or I can pay someone to do it, but I have to do that. Then there's no like, it'll get done. It's like, you have to do that. And that when you're moving, you're doing all the easier stuff first. You take posters off the walls or whatever, carpets. Ow, fuck. Oh, my eyelash just stabbed me. But then eventually it would just come to you. They'd be like, yeah, I have to do that part now. I have to. Or it'd be like, I, it's just a headache, but I got to return like the internet router and get a new one and then, set up a new service and call the power company and switch that and go get a new ID. Eventually, you'd come to the conclusion that you just had to do the thing and it's just going to suck. And there's really no way, there's really no outcome where it's like maybe it's not as bad. Like, no, it just sucks. Setting up new internet just sucks. It's never going to work correctly. Oh, no, none of your devices are going to work correctly. It's just all going to be a big fucking headache. But you can get it done. And that's one thing I'm trying to do more and more, at least just to be honest with myself. To go, there are setting up new internets. There are getting a license, not an election. There are things like taking apart the couch or moving shit. But unless you're willing to do them, you can't reasonably complain about how they're done or why they're done or in the manner that they're done. You can if you're paying people, but even then, it's like, well, why didn't you do this shit? And that's where I try to come back to this. Well, why hasn't Trump done this? And it's well, they're using the blackmail. They got the blackmail. They're using it on other people. It's like, oh, so you're using blackmail if kids getting and it's like, well, the kids were already. We can't go back in time. The kids were either killed or we've rescued them, and we've shut down all the operations. Yeah, but you're evil for using that blackmail. Okay, but what if you could use this blackmail to screw over everyone and to dismantle this system so that it never arises again, a system that abuses children? Well, you just shouldn't do it. Okay, we won't do it. We won't use the nuke on Hiroshima because it's bad. But we're sending 1 million Marines in, okay? And they're probably all going to die. No, sorry, we're going to send 5 million in. About 1 million of them are going to die. And if this doesn't go through, in a year, we're going to nuke Hiroshima and get 1 million more gravestones for Arlington. Well, I don't want that. Well, which do you want? I don't know. This is above my pay grade. Well, if it's above your pay grade, that's fine, but you need to shut the fuck up. because this is a war and it is happening. You do have to walk it out. You can't just no, I want to. Or I take it back. You can do that, but then you cannot. So instead of questioning the blanket of freedom I provide, I'd rather you just say thank you for providing it. It's so it's the couch, it's the license, it's the router. Then I would say you have to walk this out and go, all right, so you can either shut the fuck up and go, well, they're dealing with it, but I can't think about that. Or you can think about it and walk it out. So I would say, well, the first is already done because that's our resting state of just not knowing. So I'd say, let's walk out the second thing then. If the blackmail already exists, it was already done. It was children were raped and killed or whatever. And if they weren't killed, they're scarred for life. The first thing you would do is immediately shut it all down, right? You'd go in, you'd rescue the kids, and if there's any resistance, shoot everyone, all the adults in the face, blow their brains out. Okay. But then there's still a network in place of just from defense contractors to banks to private companies to shell companies to agencies to there's still a network of pure evil wrapped around the world like a snake. You have to go after it. There's no way you can learn about this and then not go after it. You would have to, I would imagine, sit down with all your other buddies who are taking this thing down, and you have to lay out all the data and go, what is the best way to take it out? In what way can we have the least number of casualties, do the least damage, at the same time eradicate this evil, pull it up by the root, and hit it with a flamethrower? You might map it all out, walk out every logic chain, every flow chart, and eventually come to this already exists. You cannot undo it. In the truest and darkest sense, it is almost that it's been done in vain if you don't use it to take apart the system that did this. It's already done. They already worked all the workers to death in Nordhausen. They already experimented on all the American POWs in Manchuria. They've already done this rocket research. They've already done this biological research. It's done. The war's over. We fucking killed everyone involved or brought them back here and they're working. There is no bringing them back, the victims. What you do have is this research. Now you can stick your nose up at it and say, well, that's evil. And you can bask in your self-pride and morality of how much of a good person you are. And okay, we'll burn all the research. There is a new threat. The Soviet Union, an Iron Curtain has descended from whatever the to whatever the fuck. We're going to go up against that and throw everything we have. We're going to do these little regional wars, these little domino theory wars, Vietnam, Korea, all this shit. Mujahideen. And if it gets really hot, what we'll do is we'll nuke them, but they'll nuke us, and that will end life on all life on Earth, which is, that's a big no-no. So what we can do is all these chess games, and what we can also do is we can take this research out of the fire and brush it off. There's a bunch of research on the effects of Ebola on people, on the effects of ricin, on the effects of sarin nerve gas, and VX nerve gas, and tabin nerve gas. And you can see what this shit does. Now, it's already been done, and using it doesn't perpetuate it. This isn't that you're a user of child pornography and go, well, I didn't make it. Yeah, but you're creating a demand. Like, no. We eradicated the ability for a demand to be met. We killed them all and nuked them. But the research exists nonetheless. Now, if there is an easier way to do this, we're just going to send in the Marines, or we're just going to nuke Moscow. Okay, fine. But if we're not going to do those things, a reasonable alternative method would be to threaten them with, Ebola artillery shells. We know it happens. It's already been done. You can, if you're, If you have qualms with it morally, you can say no, that's pure evil and we need to get rid of it. All right. Whatever happens though from here going forward is partially on your shoulders because you wanted to be a Boy Scout, which is fine. But now we're not doing this. And now that means that we don't have that tool, which means it's either going to go from negotiations and domino theory wars, which, by the way, we're going to go send, 450,000 American men to their deaths in Korea, 58,000 in Vietnam, not to mention the millions of Indo-Chinese and Koreans. Okay. And that was the best option, by the way, because we decided not to use the atomic bombs in Korea. We decided not to use the hydrogen bomb in Vietnam. What if there was another option of, hey, we'll hit you with this, virus. We'll hit you with, what is it, foot and mouth disease? Was it Rhinepest? So in that sense, you go, all right, Trump won. We're trying to take apart the whole, cabal, whatever there's different ways to do this. And one of them is to use the blackmail against them that they had been using against their pawns. And you could say, no, that's pure evil. And that's fine. You are allowed to say that. But I think it's pure evil in an adolescent sense of you can say, no, that's wrong. That's always wrong. And, if you're a kid, that's fine. And if you're an adult, you can say that, sure. But once you peek behind the curtain and you see the grand chessboard, you now have to either say, this is above my pay grade, and then not question how it gets done because you have now been given a seat at the table and you, with your own free will, backed away from the seat, pushed in your chair, and said, I'm out. Or you have to stay and work it all out. And you can sit there and go, well, this is a travesty. And you can get, hey, yeah, we get it. But hey, there's no cameras here. You don't have to fucking virtue signal. We're all aware. Yeah, the fucking of children's bad. Well, I have never. Shut the fuck up. Can you imagine someone sitting there with like Eisenhower and Patton and being like, well, to send that many men to their death? They're just looking at you like, will you shut the fuck up? Like, it's a given. Man, there are a ton of fire trucks and ambulances. Spot. God bless. Huh. So you can either excuse yourself from the table, or you can sit at it and go into the darkness. And I do it all the time on the podcast where I go, oof, that's dark. That's above my pay grade. But as I said, that doesn't end the discussion. So we're deciding whether or not we're going to nuke Hiroshima or send 1,000,000 men to their death. Oh, man, I fucking above my pay grade. Okay, you can leave. It's still August 1945. This doesn't go away because you don't want to address it. So someone somewhere does have to address this. Either Trump is involved, implicated, in which case everything he's doing has been deemed allowable to preserve the crown jewel, the center gem of the power projection capabilities, not nuclear weapons on missiles, but blackmail. Or you have to say he's not implicated because they would have released it by now because they're willing to. If they hadn't shot him last summer, I think I'd be a lot more open to going, he must be implicated. Sure, they tried Russiagate, they tried all this other shit. But you could still argue they haven't released that stuff on Trump probably because they don't want to blow the whole network because it's greater than all of that. All right. But they tried to shoot him. Well, they did shoot him. That shows desperation, which to me would thus say that is a step above an escalation, releasing blackmail, and also, you're then burning the rest of the blackmail network, but it would be a sacrifice you're willing to make. Because if it's not a sacrifice they're willing to make, and you go, well, no, they would actually really like a civil war by killing Trump. They would have killed Trump in 2021, 2022, or 2023. How come they just never hit Mar-a-Lago with a missile? Did Why wouldn't they have done it? Clearly, it was not on the table because it was too big of a move. They then did it in July of 2024 because it was deemed the most preferable move, which implies that I would think that they don't have blackmail on them. So either another option would be none of this shit exists. There is no Epstein client list. It's all in a fugazi and none of it's real. I don't. It's not that we did or didn't go to the moon. It's the moon doesn't exist. Okay, maybe, but I'm putting that way out on the side. I would say the Epstein client list does exist. And it would imply, by the logic of everything I've said, which could all be wrong, by the way, that Trump is not implicated. So if we're saying it does exist, but he's not implicated, that would thus mean that why haven't they got it or received it or released it? Maybe they have gotten it, but they haven't released it. Well, why? They're using it to dismantle this network. Well, that's fucked up. Yes, it is. Back to the whole Unit 731 analogy. I don't know. There's no good answer. Well, I take that back. It's kind of a good answer, right? Already been going an hour. Good lord, that went by quick. There is kind of a good answer, and it's that they're using it for good, which I hate. I just hate that blanket response. Even, I mean, it should be correct, and I hope it's correct. I hope that it is 5D chess, of course. I don't like making that because it just seems intellectually lazy and it seems convenient. The same way that you don't have to question the logic of what you're doing. It's Trump's Hitler, so he must be stopped. It's very mentally lazy. It's weak. It's surrender. But it seems like in this case, full caveat. I also like Trump, so like I have no idea if I'm being impartial, even though I'm trying to be. I have no fucking idea what subconscious biases I have. I have the conscious ones, and I suppose anything I can address isn't technically subconscious, but somewhere there's got to be some hardwired bias that I'm not aware of. The fish not knowing what water is. I don't know. And I don't fucking know. Makes me think of the Terrence McKenna quote in that there's two quotes. One is spiritual maturation, spiritual maturing is realizing that not everything ends, not all the end, not all the loose ends are tied in a neat bow. It's sitting with the messiness, which also leads into his other quote: the real challenge in life is not finding the answer; it's facing the answer. What do you do with it? And I think that's probably the best way to end this: is that I don't know what's going on. I can pray to the Lord. I can pray to Jesus Christ that the right thing happens and that I may do my part and that I may be shown what I need to do. But I don't have a rational answer. So I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.